Okay, we'll make a start. Guys, thank you everyone who's managed to attend on a very sunny, what is it, Tuesday afternoon? Well, I hope it's sunny. It certainly is here where I am. Delighted today to have Robert Craven along. For those of you who don't know Robert, well, I'll do a proper introduction soon. But before we go into that, just a quick kind of update from Steve and Ed, who's filling in for Adam and Mike as well. And for those of you who don't know, we are the founders of the Bulletproof Agency Network, and we are effectively 4 different professional service providers of different disciplines. So Riskbox do insurance, Steve does legal, Ed and Adam, a bit of a mouthful, at Zentum do personal financial planning, and MAP are a firm of accountants, and we all have a common interest in digital agencies, the same as Robert as well. He's fully focused on work with agencies. So really, this, you know, this is not this is a non-for-profit organisation. Bulletproof is just a banner whereby we all get together and kind of hang out and give you as much advice and support as we can through our combined networks and our combined knowledge. So if I can get this to work, I'm just going to share my screen. And is that working okay, Robert?
Yep.
Excellent.
Okay, so a lot of you will already know me, probably fortunately, I hope, not unfortunately. We're Riskbox, we're a commercial insurance broker, and we look after loads of agencies and digital businesses. All I wanted to do today was share 3 quick observations that we found in this wonderful post-COVID chaos. And from those 3 points, there will be a blog that will follow up, which will give a bit more detail, which you'll have on the mailer after the event, with 3 quick key takeaways that you can have from that. And these are all relate to genuine claims that we are looking at right now, but obviously we're not going to mention anyone's names. Number 1, professional indemnity. Now, pretty much every single agency will have professional indemnity. The key points to make sure you've got is that you've got both breach of contract cover, which if you go to some of the aggregators you might not have, and that you also have mitigation of loss cover. Now, together, those 2 things will effectively allow your insurer to enter an action early. So they'll be able to quite often nip things in the bud. So what we're finding at the moment is there are a lot of spurious contract claims. So Mrs. Agency has got a Mr. Customer over there. Mr. Customer is suffering financial difficulty. Mr. Customer wants to cut costs. What does Mr. Customer do? Mr. Customer then alleges that Mrs. Agency has actually not necessarily delivered everything that was required. Even if that's utter rubbish, you would still, Mrs. Agency, have to defend that action. Now, normally for insurance to trigger, it has to go all the way through to the legal stage, in theory, where you actually get sued. However, if you have breach of contract and mitigation of loss, it means that insurers can step in early, quite often nipping this in the bud. This saves costs, it avoids litigation, it saves stress, and quite often it will save an important client relationship. So takeaway number 1, if you have any grumble whatsoever from a client at all, tell your broker, tell your insurer straight away, and they will be able to step in, save you money, save you hassle, and sometimes make sure you keep your key relationship. Number 2, we're finding the directors and officers liability market. Now, directors and officers liability covers you as an individual. So it's your own personal liability. So the fact you're a limited company is completely irrelevant. If you're sued in your personal capacity, your liability is unlimited. So that's your house, your car, or any money you might have got from selling a previous agency. All that stuff theoretically is on the line. And directors and officers liability covers how the business is run rather than what the business delivers. Now, what we're finding is because of COVID, the insurance is in a state of flux. So premiums are high. But what we want to talk about here is that insurers are adding on an insolvency exclusion. And this is very important. Now, an insolvency exclusion basically means that it will exclude any litigation whatsoever wildly related to insolvencies. Now, if you've got a customer, an investor, a shareholder, whoever, who has an issue with your business as a result of it going insolvent, they are not going to sue your business because they will have to wait 10 years to get 1 penny for every pound. It isn't going to happen. However, if you've got a nice house and assets and so forth, they will take action against you. Therefore, you want to make sure that your directors and officers liability includes insolvencies. takeaway number 2 then. 1, make sure you have directors and officers liability, because you absolutely should have it as an agency owner. Number 2, make sure it does not exclude insolvencies. That's number 2. Number 3, and this will probably be touched on in many different talks elsewhere, relates to employment practices liability. Now, this is not employer's liability where you're looking at, say, an employee gets injured. This is how you run your business. So this will be things such as alleged unfair dismissal, wrongful redundancies, discrimination, and so forth. Now, what we're finding is that pre-COVID, there was a bit of an increase anyway, because tribunal fees have been scrapped. So there are a lot more claims. However, we found COVID is already seeing a bit of a spike, and we've had 2 particularly nasty claims already. Now, with however many million people that are furloughed, we know full well that there will be a lot of them will be made redundant. And anytime there's a redundancy, it's an emotive issue, it's a subjective issue, and people will disagree. Therefore, those redundant employees can quite feasibly take action against the business. This is obviously a problem, and insurance is increasing as a result. But with those actions, we're seeing more actions. We're seeing that they're not just naming the actual business, they're actually naming directors to increase the pressure and increase the chance of a settlement. But they're also alleging things that are a lot more serious, such as discrimination, harassment, and so forth, where suddenly you go beyond the capped damages to huge, huge amounts. So again, takeaway number 3, make sure you have employment practices liability, and do not rely on legal expenses for it, because without being too blunt about it, legal expenses cover is pretty rubbish. Have proper employment practices liability, which you can have through with directors and officers liability, usually as a package. Well, they're the 3 takeaways. They're on the blog, and they're all genuine, very large claims that we're dealing with right now. So that's the doom and gloom done. Now, hopefully it'll be over to something lighter with everybody else. Cheers.
Thank you, Mike. That was great. Here he is.
Hello.
There we go. Hi, Steve.
Hi guys. Sorry about that. Zoom was playing up on my end as well. Otherwise, I'd have dialed in before now. So, am I doing my updates, Paul? Yeah.
Please, yeah.
So, yeah, it's never an easy thing to follow Mike or Ed or Paul, but I'm going to do my best. We're delighted that so many of you joined us this afternoon. We've got about 100 sign-ups, and we're equally delighted that Robert's joining us, but anybody who's ever seen him speak knows how fantastic he is. From the legal side of things, I think there's a few things we need to be thinking about. We've grown quite a bit since we started the Bulletproof Agency Network a while ago, so we've got some new members in the team that we'll tell you about some of the time. But in terms of the issues that are going to be mattering to you, Mike's already hinted a little bit at employment. Certainly as furloughing comes to an end and redundancies look as if they're going to be a bit more on the cards, and you may well be facing claims from employees saying that they've been forced back into work, discrimination, so on and so forth, that's certainly going to be an area you're going to need to keep on top of. Also data privacy around that as well, because how you do your own risk assessments and hold on to what is effectively very sensitive personal data is probably going to mean that you're going to need to think about a privacy notice and your own health and safety and how you're going to manage that in practice. Other than that, the ICO, yes, I'm going to talk data protection for a second or two. The ICO has been looking at the sector in particular. They've been looking at ad tech and real-time bidding and programmatic pretty heavily, or they were doing until fairly recently. That review has been delayed for a while, but it is going to pick up again. So I would expect some more to come from that. Also, we're going to see legislation around what's referred to as online harms. That's going to be the UK's first attempt to regulate the web, or at least regulate the social web. And that's going to have quite a big impact on agency contracts. And in terms of more fundamental stuff, we've seen what you would expect to with an awful lot of agencies dealing with clients that are trying to pause contracts or cancel them altogether. So we've had lots of discussions around force majeure. Equally, though, we've seen an awful lot of agencies looking to try and get the house in order at the moment, put, say, shareholders agreements, better T's and C's, better documents in place, not only with the clients, but also with people they work with the influencers of the world, for example. And some of the big scary discussions that Robert will always tell you you should have been having previously, I think a lot of agencies are starting to have them again. So hopefully we're starting to see the agency community come out on the other side of it, but lots to be keeping your eye on, and we'll do our best to keep you informed.
Thanks, Steve. And Ed, are you there?
Have you got me? Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Sounds great. Go for it.
Yeah, wonderful. So on the personal financial planning side, obviously COVID-19 is, we've seen a lot of people recalculating the risk to themselves on the personal side. and on the business side. But we're seeing a lot of sort of shareholder protection, so protecting spouses on the event of another shareholder dying. Same with key man insurance. So particularly important people in the business, making sure those guys are covered off. But also in terms of wills, so we've seen a lot of people. There's a massive increase in the will market over the last 3 months as people have realised that actually they're not. There's a significant risk there, I suppose. There's a few issues in the insurance market at the moment. It's not easy to get bigger sum assureds because medicals, the need to do in-person medicals is not easy at the moment. And it's only starting to open up a little bit over the last couple of weeks. So insurers are able to get out and do those medicals now. So that there's a bit of a backlog, but it's important to get that sort of cover in place. It's just important to have a personal financial plan in place. I'm sure a lot of you guys have got business plans, but people are looking at the way they're living their lives and understanding how the business fits into that. And it's important, it will give a lot of clarity to the business to have a think about those sort of things, to discuss with your partners and to start to put a real strong financial plan for yourselves in place. It just allows you to cut through all of the financial media, which I'm sure will have been creating a considerable amount of anxiety and worries and stresses that you don't need, in addition to dealing with the business on the day-to-day basis. And generally speaking, the financial media is not there to help you guys. It's there to sell products and the like. So a strong financial plan will help to cut through that. And it's as good a time as any to sit down and to think about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Ed. Very helpful. And just to reiterate something that Ed and Steve and Mike all alluded to, actually, which is that not all of what we say is going to be positive, happy, clappy, high fives. Let's pretend the world's great. But it's also not going to be the media, approach of pulling everyone down and saying how negative everything is. I did a little bit of research. You've probably seen a lot of stats like this yourself. This is definitely not an economics lesson, and I'm not an economics expert either, but just an overview of the last several recessions. And clearly what's proven, as I'm sure Robert's going to allude to, always happens off the back of a recession is that we then have a boom to follow the bust. So right now it's about kind of accepting where we're at and accepting that it is a low point, and we've got to make the right decisions to secure the short-term viability of a business. But soon we're going to be looking to exploit the opportunities that are coming out of the back of this, and we want to be here to make sure that you are addressing both of those periods in your business journey and in your own journey as well. So without further ado, I think audio is all working, and I'm going to introduce Robert. So as I say, for those of you who've not heard of Robert before, I'm sure most of you have. He works exclusively with digital agencies like the rest of us do. He runs the Guider initiative, so the Grow Your Digital Agency initiative. He's written a book on growing agencies. He's got a community, an online community, an online hub, which hopefully he'll speak to us more about. They've decided to offer 3 months of a free trial for the online community, and there are some fantastic agencies and huge wide-ranging agencies for doing everything you can imagine in every country you can imagine. Robert travels Europe, speaking in several different countries with lots of different very impressive agencies, particularly through the work that he does with Google partners. And today he's going to speak to us about getting ahead of the curve. So as we've been talking about, we're about to come out, hopefully going to come out at the better side of this very soon, and Robert's going to talk about some ways to think about doing that. So I'm just going to switch host over to you, Robert, and then it's all yours.
Lovely. All right, okay, brilliant. Okay, we're here, and we share screen, and boom, we're away. Hello, everyone. It's awesome. It's fantastic to be here with you. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you. So what I'm going to do is talk about Brave New World, and more importantly, how you get ahead of the curve. And the issue about the head of the curve is what on earth do we mean by ahead of the curve? But before we do that, let's just have a little think about why I'm talking to you and what I want to say to you. So as a result of this conversation, I'm going to talk about, how you get new customers, how you make your business more sticky, this issue about going from furlough to redundancy and surplus cash. And I'll probably spend most of my time talking about getting new customers and a little bit about the others. Why is this important to me? It's important to me because I currently sit on the board of 4 agencies, so I have an awful lot of skin in the game. We also work with some 129 agencies, so it's really, for us to figure out how we can help those agencies do really, really well. And why is it important to you? For the obvious thing that you're in an agency, and thank you very much for turning up. I thought everyone was entirely zoomed out, but clearly there's a little space for a little bit more zoominess going on with webinars. But I kind of want to avoid all the trite stuff and kind of get down to a bit of the meat and the bones, really, of the conversation in the time that I've got. So the big question for me, which is a dead straightforward question, is what's holding you back? What's holding you back from running the agency you really want? Now, typically people go through the stuff around government and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and my accountant and my solicitor and my surveyor and Uncle Tom probably and all. And right now, when you ask this question, people are saying, oh, no idea, no clue, COVID stuff, furlough. My point is simple, which is that people are still blaming external issues there when what's holding them back is nothing to do with them as far as they can see. And I would argue that really what's going on is this fear of making decisions, this fear of furloughing people too soon, furloughing them too late, redundancy too soon, too late. Do we give them holidays? Do we not give them holidays? Do we reduce price? Do we take clients to court? Do we not take clients to court? What do we actually do? And that noise is the thing which is mad. But actually the real issue, from my mind, is not just simply that fear, but actually what's holding people back is not taking ownership of the decision making themselves. So when we talk about ahead of the curve, which curve are we talking about? Are we talking about Kubler-Ross, which is the fear curve, or the curve of how you feel after someone's died, the pain and the hurt, where you reject the idea, then you become frustrated, and eventually you start turning, as you start accepting, you start planning and moving your way forward? Do we mean this elusive curve the government talk about, in which case there's no way we can be ahead of that because we've got no idea what that curve is going to be showing and how that curve is going to actually roll out? Do we mean the bell curve? Well, I think you want to be ahead of the bell curve, or you want to be on the right hand side of the bell curve. Or do we mean, which is the one that I would like to think about rather than the bell curve, which is the power curve? Because I think the power curve kind of summarizes an awful lot of what's going on. So the bell curve, the bell curve talks endlessly about the rump in the middle. But really what I want to be talking about in some senses is what is it that the real minorities actually do? So power curve measures as opposed to the number of people, it measures the effectiveness or the output. So typically we know about the 80-20 rule, but we know also that that final 1% of customers will pay 50% more. That final 1% of customers may represent 40 or 50% of your turnover. And really, if we start thinking about the power law, you start thinking about how you can find those few people who will buy lots and lots from you. Anyhow, we can talk about that another time. So my point is this: fear is holding us back from making decisions, and that's really not good. And what we've seen is from that total fear when lockdown started, that people are starting to have plans and they're starting to roll out those plans. Now, just backing off one piece, if we had perfect hindsight, we would be able to tell everyone that what should you do? You should restructure your costs ahead of the downturn. And I was working with agencies who were doing that in December when they saw it coming. They were putting their financial house in order, and more importantly, they were playing a fence. They were reinvesting selectively for commercial growth. They were looking at what was going to work and they were investing it. Other things that they were doing in terms of perfect hindsight is they were being really proactive with M&A. In the last 3 days, I've had maybe 8 or 9 people saying they're looking to buy an agency. So if you're looking to sell your agency, there's no shortage of people who have got cash, bounce back cash, C-bills cash that they're willing to spend on buying your agency, although they're going to expect a knockdown price. Other perfect hindsight things you'd expect people to be saying is, start with the end in mind, stress test the P&L and manage the cost. That's what we should have done. That's what people should have been doing, but we didn't kind of really know that we should have been doing it because no one really believed it was going to happen, in hindsight being perfect. However, this is my point. All the research, whether you go to Bain, McKinsey, Ernst & Young, Harvard Business Review, pretty much say the same thing. And Bain were the most conservative, the least doom and gloomy about it all, shall I say. And this is their point with their research. Those businesses that cut the fat beyond the muscle, those businesses who shed the people and their knowledge, those people who hoarded cash, those people who didn't invest for the future, when they came out of the recession or the economic depression that we're actually going into, their growth rate was round about 0%. In other words, they didn't lift up after the doom and gloom. And we kind of all know intuitively 2020 is going to be worse than 2019 for us, and 2021 is probably going to be a little bit worse than 2019. That's what I'm picking up from the agencies that I'm speaking with. And if you want to know what those agencies kind of comprise of, maybe 3 or 4% are doing awesomely well. So there's a influencer agency working with Gen Z, never been so busy. There's online gambling, never been so busy. And then you've got a rump at the other end, people involved with hotels and hospitality where it's just been desperate. And the most of the agencies that I'm seeing in this particular quarter, revenues are down 30 to 50%. But that's just for this quarter, year on year. So the year will catch up slowly but surely, but it's not going to be as strong as it was. Now, my point is this. Those that did the traditional batten down the hatches saw no growth at all. But those that do the sensible thing, which is strategically investing, managing the workforce, thinking about the future, so keeping the muscle, keeping the IP, and those who unlocked the balance sheet, who realized what was going on that they could now invest, those businesses saw on average 17% greater growth than the other businesses. The point is this: in a recessionary time, share of voice becomes share of market. The point is this: although people may be moving from performance marketing to more general brand marketing, people will want to buy, and when they want to buy, they need to know who they're going to go to, and therefore your clients need to be front of mind. We've got a couple of clients where lockdown was released 3 or 4 weeks ago, and when you ask them, you're 3 or 4 weeks ahead of us where we are in the UK, what would you be doing had you known what it was going to be like post-lockdown being released? And every one of them said, we would have been out there selling, absolutely sell. Because as the lockdown releases, businesses realize that they need to get going, and they start looking for marketing support, both performance and full service. Okay, so the message is clear. You need to be out there selling, because as businesses, as the businesses that weren't doing well are appearing, they want share of voice. And those businesses that have been doing really well, the grocers and the bike shops and the online casinos, they're really worried about their sales dipping as lockdown returns. So they want more coverage. So there's a really strong argument that you should be out there right now selling, promoting, discussing, having those conversations that you actually need. So let's have a quick look at my list. So my list goes: get new customers, make my business more sticky. What do you do from furlough to redundancy, surplus cash? very, very quickly, the get new customers thing is around one question, which is, why should people bother to buy from you when they can buy from a competition? What makes you different from the rest? And unless you're able to answer that question, you are absolutely going to go nowhere. So we're not going to do elevator pitches right now, but elevator pitch, value proposition, you need to revisit all of that stuff, because what's going on, and Paul will no doubt allude to it, you know, question one was, can we survive post-COVID? Can we survive until the summer? Yeah, have we got deep enough pockets to actually survive to the summer? If we can survive to the summer, have we got a compelling enough proposition to get us to Christmas? And if we have a compelling enough proposition to get us to Christmas, have we got a model which is sustainable in 2021? Now, my point is this: right now, you need to have or be in the process of re-examining what your model is and what your proposition to market is. Because to be honest, it's absolutely dull as ditch water out there. All of your websites are boring. They are selling the same products and the same services to the same people, using the same types of websites, the same sales pitches, same software, same prices, same solutions. Every one of your websites has people climbing trees and people pulling ropes and saying, we care, we are customer centric, we offer tremendous value for service. And it's really, really dull. And you haven't figured out what you should have done, which is to figure out how to market your businesses, which is absolutely bonkers. Just want to go on to Doug Hall, which gives you real insight into how you need to put together your value proposition, your quantifiable value proposition. So I think you need to rethink your business in terms of what people want, because I think you probably got it wrong. Most of you out there have a hammer, and you therefore treat all your customers like a nail, and you offer one solution. So you need to rethink your proposition in terms of what people want. So do the basic stuff, which is, and I'll just explain this very simple graph, which is 4,000 propositions. Those businesses that did not offer an overt business benefit was a 13% likelihood of making a sale. If you have an overt business benefit, the likelihood of making a sale goes up to 38%. What is an overt business benefit? Using numbers to demonstrate the business benefit. Yeah. So that's why quantifiable value proposition is what it's about. It's not good enough to say that people who come to us get this. You need to say people who come to us get this at this percent. So typically our clients see profit raised within 33% within 3 months. Typically clients see a return on investment of 130%. You need to put numbers. Numbers turn people on. The second thing you need to have in your value proposition is a real reason to believe that you can deliver. No value, no real reason to believe you can deliver in your proposition, 18% likelihood of making the sale. Put in a real reason to believe, video testimonials, white paper, benchmark material, demonstrations of what you've done. The likelihood of making the sale goes up from 18 to 42%. And then the final one is the dramatic difference. No dramatic difference. We're a digital agency. We've got a brand and we've got a ping pong table, you know, and a dartboard, you know, 15% likelihood of making a sale. With a dramatic difference from the rest, the only one in the UK, the only one in Manchester, we only charge by results. If there's a dramatic, we are the only one that uses such and such technology. We're the only one who focus on a specific market space. That likelihood of making a sale goes from 15% to 53%. Put the three together, you get some dynamite. But everyone is seeing agencies claiming they're doing great stuff. We're award winning, yawn, yawn. So what makes you different from the rest? And the answer, my friends, of what makes you different from the rest is that it's all about who you serve and why you serve them. It's all about your focus. It's all about how you do stuff. It's all about what you care about, what you stand for. And if you're able to demonstrate what you stand for and who you care about and how you care about them and what you do, that becomes unbelievably distinguishing, and it becomes unbelievably attractive. So the more you niche down, the more you focus on who you're working with and why they should be working with you, suddenly things become electric. And I can see there's people on the call who specialize in doing elevator pitches and things, but I'm going to stop there. But my point is simple, that you need to be really clear about who you serve and why you serve them, and how you serve them and why you're different, because the only thing that makes you different is you yourself. But saying you're number one or premier just isn't enough. As Jerry Garcia says, you do not merely want to be the best of the best, you want to be considered the only ones that do what you do. So work with digital agencies who are trying to grow, work with lawyers with between 50 and 150 desks, work with, but make that specificity and demonstrate why you want to be so specific in who you're working with. Because the wonderful thing is that suddenly your hit rate changes dramatically. Your likelihood of making a sale increases dramatically because you're in a smaller marketplace, and therefore you need to have fewer leads in order to do well. There's like a wonderful graph we can show you. So the number of leads can go down by literally 75% because your hit rate will go up literally by 75% by niching. Okay, and what is it you want? I want more sales. You wanted it in 2017, you wanted it now. And what's your biggest pain? Finding new clients. You wanted to find them now. Only now do you understand really what finding new clients is about, because now you need to do it. You never realize how good you had it. Now, here's my point. One, referrals are not scalable. Waiting for the referral, waiting for the phone. That is not on, yeah? That's not because you lack the talent or the capability. You're a great agency and you're really good at what you do. The reason is, that your pipeline's too small because you've not been actively growing the business, because you've been waiting, too many people waiting, and waiting was okay pre-COVID, it's not okay now. Waiting for the phone to ring is not a sustainable strategy, okay? It's just not, you cannot do that. It's just, especially now, because everyone wants business. So, just think about the difference between farmers, hunting, and waiters. Okay, so waiters wait. Farmers do that nurturing, coffeeing, teaing stuff. Very difficult to farm at the moment. And the hunters go out, they create a list of 100 people they're going to go after, and they go after them. And my argument is that you need to be thinking about becoming more of a hunter and less of a farmer. And if you do that, you will find results. Why? Because nearly everyone hates hunting. Nearly everyone thinks the cool thing to do is to be farming and nurturing. And they think hunting is uncool. But hunting is okay. Drawing up a list of 100, 200 agencies clients you want to go after, and step by step going after them is an okay thing to do. It's just that hunting and farming are very, very different, and not many farmers are good at hunting and not many hunters are good at farming. So just think about how you're going to make that happen. Think about how you're going to do that. So that's really all I want to say about getting new customers. Secondly, and it's kind of linked, is make your business more sticky. At every point, at every stage in your business, you need to make it more sticky. And this goes back to, dare I say it, your culture. What differentiates you from everyone else is how you do stuff. It is your culture. And although people know me, although I fight and resist the soft, touchy, feely stuff, the culture thing's really, really important. How you make your clients feel. And you can make your clients feel like they're special, or you can make them feel like they're rubbish. You can turn up early for meetings, you can turn up late. You can make it feel like the best thing ever, so much so they want to tell other people about how great you are. But you've got to get on top of the fact that once you've got a client, you need to keep them, and the best way is to make them sticky. Find out what it is they want, find out how they want it, when they want it, where they want it, in what form they want it, find out what reports they want, how often they want it, and just think in your mind, how can I make my clients go, wow, what is it that I can do that my Zoom meeting, of all the Zoom meetings the client has each week, that they actually think that my Zoom meeting is actually a really good one. Think about, of all the webinars that they attend, that my webinar they're going to think is a really good one. Work up a way of thinking about how you can make your clients go up. Now, I totally get that we don't want to be going wow all the time. You don't want to be going into Sainsbury's and going, wow, they've got amazing milk. Wow, but this is all about making working with your agency as frictionless as possible. And as someone who has done and sent out work to several agencies in the last couple of years, can I tell you, it is really, really hard trying to be a client of an agency. Agencies do a couple of things which really, really wind people up, which we're not aware of. You need to have this mentality, which is, one, we understand, madam, we understand your business. Madam, we understand business. Madam, we understand you. And madam, we understand what you're trying to do. Now, most agencies are not able to talk about business in any sensible way, okay? They've not necessarily been to business school. They've not necessarily got the best people in front of you. But what I want is someone who understands my business. So if I run a bike shop, I want you to understand the bike shop business and what I measure and my issues. I want you to understand business. I want you to understand me and my world, and I want you to understand what it is that I'm trying to do. If you display that, your clients will love you. If you go, way beyond, this is what my job is to get you an ROI of, they will love you. What you want to do is you want to be moving away from being a supplier, which is really easy. It's highly competitive being a supplier. If you're a supplier, they can get anything that you do from Bangalore for $5 or $10 an hour. You must not be a supplier. You've got to move up the chain, up the food chain, from being a supplier to becoming an advisor, and up again to being a trusted advisor. Because at that higher level, you're able to communicate with high level people. Your time is based on the added value rather than, well, it's going to be 10 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours or 10% of. And you're more enmeshed in your client's world than you would be otherwise. So you need to do everything you can to have those conversations which stop you being transactional and get you to become relational. And the problem for most agencies that I find, as we think about how they get new customers and how they make their business sticky, is in both subjects, agencies are very transactional. You ask an agency to sell coffee mugs, they can do that till the cows come home, okay? It's a transactional thing. But what they're not good at is they're not good at the relationship thing. And what we are selling is we are selling a professional service, like an accountant or a lawyer or an architect. What we do is we essentially sell hot air. We sell our reputation to deliver. What does an accountant do? An accountant doesn't just do the numbers. The accountant gives us a peace of mind, okay? So it's this statement that people don't buy what you do, they buy what you do does for them. So you don't buy an agency because you want Google AdWords or you want a graphic or you want a website. You buy from an agency because you want more customers. And that's the point. You need to understand what it is that customers really want from you. So how do you make your business more sticky? You give your customers what they want. So we talk where we are about helping agency leaders run the agency they want so they can live the life they really want to lead. That's what it's about. It's about us helping agency owners have the life they really want to lead. And the same is true about your clients. They're not buying from you for what you have. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I wish I had a better content marketing strategy. So third point really is going from furlough to redundancy. What we're seeing is the conversation that's going on right now this week. There's two big conversations going on. Conversation number one is, can we work from home? Can we do this work from home piece? Could we actually run the entire business, work from home. And I'd say 50% of people are saying, yeah, we can do it. Not maybe fully work from home, but certainly we can give people that option. I'll come back to that in a minute over surplus cash. But the other bigger conversation is that agencies are stuck, as far as I'm concerned, until we go through this furlough to redundancy piece. So what do I mean by that? We now know how furloughing is going to fall apart, how it's going to unpick itself as we head towards autumn, okay? And as furloughing unpicks itself, we need to make people redundant. And I'm glad to say that the majority of the agencies I'm close to have made those redundancies or announced those redundancies, although maybe that they're going to come at the end of the furloughing stage. Announced it in private, let's be absolutely clear. But until we know who we're going to make redundant, until we've decided and publicly made them redundant, and until we understand the impact that has on the culture of the business, agencies kind of can't get on, because the people, the team will be totally and utterly distracted by that. I was amazed that my son's best mate works for an agency that I know, all that kind of stuff. He's been furloughed, this lad, and he's just assumed he's going to get made redundant. In fact, I don't think he is going to get made redundant, but he's assumed it. And we forget what it must be like to be furloughed, waiting. So my point is, the biggest issue for me is about getting the furlough behind us, getting the redundancy behind us, because everything else is kind of okay. Most people are seeing green, we can talk about it. Most people are seeing green shoots. Stuff is starting to lift. It's starting to happen. There's not enough foot down on marketing. There could be some more foot down on marketing. But I think the biggest sticking point right now is the impact of moving from furlough to redundancy. And the final thing I'd like to talk about is surplus cash. Okay, everyone should have at least got their 50k of bounce back loan or more C-bills. Okay, I picked up my bounce back loan while I was on a deadly Zoom call. It took me, I think, 6 minutes to fill it in, and I think the answer to the questions are yes, 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 and then question 9 and 10, no, no, and then your turnover. And we wait 24 hours and the money comes back. You don't pay anything for it. It just arrives. And as long as you get it back to them within the year, and even if you do, you only pay 2.5%. C-bills is the same thing, but on a bigger scale. Think what you can do with the money. You can buy another agency. You can buy the equipment. You can get people on it. Now, the point is you have to pay this money back, be absolutely clear about it, and be absolutely clear about the legality of pulling the money out of your business, because it's money inside the business, and be really careful about distinguishing between the use of your loans and research and development, those of you who have R&D grants. But aside from that, you have some money. So, you know, so I know one person who's buying an agency outright, done, yeah, nice agency, 50k rollover, fine, done, that gets that a year early. Another person who's putting an extension to their house, there's some difficulties about whether it's part of the house, whether it's a business, separate entrances, but £50,000 buys you a nice house office. They're then getting rid of the big office and having everyone working from home. So savings in that business of £75,000 a year on rent. And what are they doing in order to compensate for that? Once a week, they're all meeting upstairs at the Rose and Crown, which is quite big and got good. It's got good Wi-Fi, and they can all work together. So there's lots of different things you can do with that cash, and you need to think about how you might use that cash if you're going to use it, because I think it's there. And it would be a shame if you didn't take advantage and you didn't use it. So that's my list. Get new customers, make your business more sticky, think really carefully about furlough to redundancy, and finally just have a little think about surplus cash. I guess my point is this: intention is everything. Start with the end in mind. Intention is everything. You need to do that, and hopefully you've done it. That swirling around the mind. What am I going to do? If, would, should, if, would, should, if, would, should, then if, would, should, if. But then you need to write down the plan, and you need to take immense action. You need to take immense action to actually make stuff happen. So what are the key 3 lessons, I think, coming out of this? One, and this is a list, there's a list of 16, but I only just pull out these 3 things because I think, you know, we need to focus. Okay. One, this has been an opportunity to think dramatically different. This is an opportunity to think dramatically differently. If you're not thinking dramatically differently, I can tell you that the winners, those ones who are growing at a greater and a faster rate, those who are going to come out of this better than we are, they are thinking dramatically differently. They are reconfiguring their offer, they're reconfiguring how they deal with clients, they're reconfiguring their price model, they're reconfiguring what they offer as an agency, what the proposition and the offer is, so that they are coming out a reinvented agency that could never have been squeezed out of pre-COVID times. So you need to think dramatically differently about how you approach the market and what your offer to market is right now. Secondly, you need to go much faster. Now is the time when things happen quickly. You cannot just hang around, maybe, maybe not. Let's have a meeting about it. Let's decide. Let's not decide. Clients are moving so quickly. See how quickly clients have become digitized and how quickly they've set up working from home and how quickly even shops have adjusted. You need to be going even faster. A large part of the success coming out of COVID is going to be about digital transformation, and you need to demonstrate that you are at the forefront of digital transformation. You, whether you like it or not, as soon as there's some sort of digital thing or marketing or agency piece associated with you, there's an assumption that you're ahead of the game in terms of digital transformation and that you can help your clients with that digital transformation piece. And I think that's the big clue about the way forward, that you cannot just sit in your we do content, we do websites piece. You're there to help your clients, and you need to be able to do that fast, because otherwise someone else will do it. So one, think dramatically differently. Secondly, you need to go much faster. And finally, measure the right stuff, which just takes us very neatly into Paul. What gets measured gets done. If you measure the wrong stuff, it goes nowhere. You need really clear, tight KPIs, key performance indicators, and you need clear measurement of performance, and you need clear measurement of things ahead of you. So you need to be measuring ahead of. So don't just measure historically, measure things which will predict key predictive indicators. So number of conversations kind of tells you how many proposals, kind of tells you how much work you're going to get. So that's probably as important to measure. So pick a few key measures that you can actually follow and chase through to actually make sure that stuff happens. Those would be my 3 key lessons. And yeah, pick up the bloody phone or the Zoom, pick it up. Don't mess around, talk to people, have a commitment to talk to 4 people a day. Make sure that you're out there engaging with people. Do not hide behind your email, Zoom, WhatsApp group. Pick up the phone. You can't go out for coffees, but pick up the phone and talk to people. That is what will make the enormous difference. So my big takeaway, the one piece, is this is the time now to take action. And there is a but, and the but is this: we're not manically busy doing business right now, okay? But come September, October, it probably is going to be manically busy, okay? So you need to make sure that you are not burnt out for September or October. So as a business leader, you are absolutely within your rights right now to do a 4-day rather than a 5-day week. Why do a 4-day week rather than a 5-day week? Because on your 5th day, you'll think crazy thoughts. You'll go swimming, you'll go fishing, you'll go walking, you'll come up with crazy ideas. No one ever came up with a great idea in front of their laptop, okay? And what you need is you need to be refreshed and ready, because boy, oh boy, as this thing starts picking up, it's going to, for some of us, it's going to be incredibly busy. And if you're burnt out because you've been trying to work 6.5 days a week, trying to get the sale that's not there, when the sales are there, as is going to happen, you need to be fit and ready for it. So my final takeaway for you, my friends, is that you take action. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Robert. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
I'm sure you're getting a fantastic virtual applause as we speak, but I won't be able to prove that. That was really good. I've got a few questions if you can stay with us for a few more minutes, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The first question that came through is probably better answered by me, actually, so it'll give you a chance to have a little sip of your drink and have a little breather. But somebody's asked about payment terms in regards to their customers asking. Now, not normally something that obviously I would advise extending payment terms, but clearly we are in, I hate to say it, I think I've been the first one to break the rule, but shall not say it.
Don't say it.
Very difficult times. And therefore people are clearly going to ask the question. The best advice that I can give is that you just have to be really clear and document what it is that you're agreeing to, because just saying that yes, we can extend payment terms is far too vague. What does extend mean? If they're currently on 30 days and then 75 days later they've still not paid you, but you agreed to, in inverted commas, extend payment terms, then you've created a rod for your own back. So if you're going to extend, start a negotiation and make sure it becomes really clear. Ask them to make a suggestion first to prove that they're not just, taking liberties. And you're getting very cash-rich businesses now that are asking to get better terms because they can hide it under the COVID banner, even if they're not struggling as a business. So just ask your customers what is it that they can afford and what is it that they're offering that they can stick to, and then try and find the negotiation between your current payment terms and what they're offering. But get that in writing and make sure that on that day, when that payment becomes due, they're getting chased for that payment. We can talk to you about automating some of that credit control with emails to make sure that you chase them on that day, but just make sure you're clear on what you're agreeing to.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Paul. I think so. I've just made you host, by the way, just so you know. I think that the reality is that we went through this period of everyone postponing or pausing. And I think that people often weren't clear. I think one of the points is that we need to be available to help our clients. Part of our role, this digital transformation thing, is we need to be, we needed to be, and we still need to be helping our clients navigate through difficult times. And we need to be generous with our time and generous with helping. We need to be investing in the relationship for the future. However, we need to talk money. You need to talk money. So when they say they want to pause, as you quite rightly say, you say, okay, so what is this exactly entailing? Is it a full, you get your service free for 3 months? Or is it, we'll give you half the service for half the price? Or is it, we'll give you the service for half the price for 3 months? But you need to be abundantly clear in what's going on. Because the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to end up litigating, because that's not clever. But I think you also need to probably draw up a list of your clients according to how risky you think they are and which ones you think are going to take the mick. And those ones you need to follow up tighter than the ones who are your best mates. But we've been surprised by clients who we thought would be really great have played silly whatsits. In fact, Jay Cowell talks about it as being bastard tax. She charges bastard tax. So anyone who cuts off the service by email, hasn't got the courtesy to phone up and say things are difficult, is there something we can do, and just sends the email saying we want the service suspended for 3 months. She then charges them bastard tax at the other end, which is a unreasonable charge for working with them, because they're not the sorts of people they want to be working with, because they haven't understood their values and how they behave. Anyhow,
does she tell her customers that it's called bastard tax?
No, I think she holds back on that piece.
Would it be wrong to then talk honestly with them about our payment terms, e.g. moving to 50% upfront and 50% on completion, or is it a case of anything goes as long as we're all... I don't think you can take anything off the table, but you need to start at a point that you've agreed payment terms and you've got a contract in place. So they're the people that, you know, they're the party that are asking for negotiation, so they need to come forward and offer something, and you need to be able to make sure that you've got the appetite to be able to weather that.
Yeah, and I think also the standard rules of negotiation are you flip it over to them rather than you start. So that's the first thing. And secondly, you always negotiate conditionally. So if they say we want the service, but we want to suspend payment for 3 months, then you have to say we can suspend payment on condition that we don't offer the full service, or the contract is for a further 3 months at the end, or whatever it is. So you never give stuff away willy-nilly. It's always conditional on something else. Yeah,
if you're going to get something back. Yeah. Brill. And then Phil Bray, who we both know. Hello, Phil.
Hello, Phil.
He says his agency is recruiting right now and seeing a significant increase in the number of candidates applying for available positions. Are there any thoughts on recruitment post COVID-19 and how you might do things differently?
Right. Okay. Big question. So firstly, the recruitment thing's really interesting because you've got some of the big platforms that will be nameless have made 2,000 or 3,000 people redundant. So you've got a whole load of so-called marketing consultant analysts out there flooding the market. At the same time, post furlough and redundancy, there's going to be a whole load of agency folk flooding the market. I think the more important thing is that 3 months ago, you'd say, I'm a Devon business or I'm a Manchester business. And therefore I can't get diversity because the only people I know are people from around here. Well, that's nonsense now. We've proven that if you're a Devon agency, you can employ people from anywhere. If you're a Manchester agency, you can employ people from anywhere. So now, not only can you employ people from anywhere, but you can also trade anywhere. So I think the marketplace has changed. And I think the work from home agenda has become much stronger, but that makes it really difficult training up the youngsters. It's not so bad recruiting someone who's more experienced, but if you're thinking about, you know, the first or the second job that someone's got, how on earth do you train them up when they're still working from home? So I think there'll be more pressure for you the pressure will be to find someone 3 or 5 years in. That area is going to be tighter. It's going to be harder to recruit and train those younger people.
Yeah, just a point on the hiring people that you've never met. I've done that twice in the last couple of months. We've hired 2 new people, and what we negotiated with the recruitment agencies was extended rebate terms on the basis that, you know, they were pretty desperate at the time. Recruitment agencies were not exactly buoyant with demand for their services, and we were investing in them and taking a risk in taking on people that we've never met face to face. So we just asked that we extend the rebate terms to be a number of weeks post lockdown lifting, to say that, you know, if we're going to try our best to onboard this person, but we're not going to really know until we meet them in the flesh, and therefore we'd expect at least a few weeks post lockdown where we can get a full rebate, or at least, you know, a sizable amount of their rebate. But also other advice, just I use something called LinkedIn Talent Solutions, and I know that there used to be LinkedIn Recruiter, and I don't know whether Talent Solutions is an evolution of the old Recruiter or the 2 separate things, but I've been blown away by the success we've had with Talent Solutions. The last role we put on for 10 days and had 91 applications for a strategic FD role in 91 days, and it cost me 128 quid. And we hired somebody off the back of that drive. With LinkedIn Talent Solutions, as well as your outbound ads, as well as people coming inbound from your ads, you can also reach out and message people who LinkedIn suggest are a potential match. So we've had great success with that, and I know a number of our clients have as well. It just takes a lot of work, so you just need somebody to be able to administer the work and the back and forth with the candidates. But if you can get clear on kind of what your messages are that you're going out with and what to look out for in the profiles, then I recommend having a look at LinkedIn Talent Solutions. And then David has asked a question, and I think it's because he knows the answer and he's trying to be clever, which is, what are the books behind Robert's right shoulder? Because I'm interested as well, and I think they're probably a Gino Wickman book.
That's my right shoulder, so it's those books that way.
The orange ones, yeah. Is it Gino Wickman? Rocket Fuel?
No, that is Seth Godin, This is Marketing. And in a nutshell, people like you buy from people like you. Lencioni is The Advantage. Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And then Built to Last, Bright Marketing by myself, and then various other books.
Oh, David was right and I was wrong, to be fair. So he probably was showing off. Right, okay. Thank you for that, Robert. Robert's going to hang around, so if there's anyone decides they want to ask, I can pose that at the end, and we can also follow up as well. I know David was wrong. He thought what I thought. Okay. Right. Let me see if I can make this work. Robert, if you won't mind just keeping your audio on, just to let me know whether you can still see my video when I do this, because it's a bit tricky on two screens. So I'm going to go for screen number 2, share desktop, and then screen number 1. I'm going to hit play.
And we've got your slides.
Still see my video as well?
I can see your slides, yes. Should I stay or should I go?
And can you see me?
I can see you in the right-hand corner.
Yeah,
group.
Okay, bro. Thanks, Robert. So this slightly, I suppose, confrontational title, but this is something that I think has become really real. And when I wrote this, I wanted to base it on the conversations that we're finding ourselves having with clients. And clearly a lot of you have been through an incredibly difficult emotional period over these last couple of months, and you'll have started to question kind of whether it's all worth it. And some of you may be even thinking about that pre-COVID and pre-this, and maybe your business was starting to build a little bit of traction or struggling a little bit, and then this hit, and it just felt like, you know, a truck had hit you and you're not sure what to do next. So the reason that I wrote this is because a lot of clients were asking about it, you know, what are my options? And many of those businesses have carried on, and you know they've built the business back up. But for others, genuinely the right thing to do can be to close down the business and do something else. And I just think it's important to address that, because we're not all wedded to our business. We're not defined by our business. That is just our current business and just a place in our careers as emotionally attached and as excited we might be by the opportunity of our businesses. That there is no one that gets to say that you should have to continue no matter what. And in fact, many successful entrepreneurs see when there is an opportunity to do something completely differently and walk a different path. So that's what this is all about, really. So, you know, for many digital agency owners, the impact has been huge. Consumer and business habits shifted dramatically to being online. And some of you will have actually benefited from that. We have some clients who have really grown, particularly those that are focused on e-commerce and got clients where their products are now in higher demand than ever. However, it clearly does depend on the service, on the sector that you service. And if you were focused on retail, leisure and hospitality, for example, you can't help the fact that those areas have been affected. Just realised that my video is potentially in the way, so let me see if I can sort that. In fact, guys, I'll just stop my video for now because it'll be easier. So, taking advantage of the government support schemes, bear with me. Such as the furloughing has provided some much needed breathing space, and I think many agencies that are still here today wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for furlough. In reality, it's a state of execution for many, and it's enabled you to pause and to take your time to think. So although it might feel at the moment like you are under pressure to make decisions, you've actually had a lot longer than if furlough hadn't come along. So it really has been a blessing. It's enabled you to take stock and plan for the future without having to lose important talent. In the meantime, just get your head together. So the question now for those who've been able to build really good businesses and healthy balance sheets in recent years is genuinely whether to capitalize on this good run and close down the agency, taking what you've got and perhaps considering a new venture, or to continue and use the cash that's now available to you to support business until the market picks up. Robert talked about the C-bills and the bounce back loans there. And whilst I wouldn't normally be a fan of taking on debt for what is usually a very organic business like an agency, if you're a profitable business, you can get the money in quickly. In the main, you shouldn't be requiring debt unless you're looking to grow very fast, build management team, infrastructure, and all that kind of stuff. But now it's such a good opportunity, because usually the dilemma is, do I want to take on the cost of debt, and what am I going to spend the money on? But now there is no cost of debt for the first 12 months. So the only question is what to spend the money on. But even that, you've got 12 months to decide. So my advice would absolutely be to take the money. I don't think that should be a big consideration. I would take the money. Bearing in mind, doesn't need to be personally guaranteed. You're not running that risk. And then once you've got it, that's when the more difficult conversations come and the more difficult decisions about whether to let it lapse past that first year when it's starting to then cost you money and interest, and also where to invest that money. But also trust yourself and trust your own judgment that if you've got that cash in your business, that you should know the right ways to spend it. So now it's time that we started to come to some informed decisions as the furlough period starts to get phased out. And now's the time to start planning. Not all of the components of your plan are going to be hard facts, and some of the most critical issues rely on your emotional and personal views. So it's worth breaking that down to ensure that it's separated out as much as possible. What are the current business dynamics, and what's the financial health of the agency right now? Secondly, build scenarios to better understand the steps that can be taken and the impact of those. And then self-reflection. So what actually is your personal motivation, and how are you going to respond? Whatever your conclusion, obviously work with professional advisors before choosing to act. Use them as a sounding board. They will get those ideas and concerns out of your head, help you to formalize them. They should challenge you, not just take your instructions and take your ideas as read. And they should, most importantly, hold you accountable to actually building a plan and executing it. Often as managing directors, we're holding the rest of our team accountable, but we're not accountable to anyone ourselves. So working with an advisor, a mentor, a coach, an accountant, whoever it is, letting them hold you to accountable and kind of hold you to the flame and make sure you make progress, because a business plan is not just something that you do to satisfy the bank. It's something that you do to gain clarity and focus on your business. So still a lot of anxiety around looking at sustained losses into the future, because if revenue is down, staff are now having to come back as furlough starts being phased out. You could be looking down the barrel of significant losses on your business. And just as a reminder, stressful as this can be, this isn't a reflection on you, your team, or the quality of your clients and the work that you do, but it's the reality of what's impacting businesses across the planet. Your agency has become a big part of your life, and the economic impact of COVID-19 has been a sudden shock to the system for us all. So good work that you've done over many years has been fundamentally put at risk overnight by something that's outside of your control. So it's really important that you're not beating yourself up about this, and just accepting that this is just a new challenge in your career. And if the business has had good years in the past and built good reserves, watching this potentially erode away can be a really difficult thing to face. Other factors might come into play, such as how well your staff have stepped up to provide support and leadership. Because if you're looking at growing your business again off the back of this, if that's your decision, you absolutely need to have the team behind you ready to do that. So keep a close eye on how your team are responding during this time and what the dynamics of your team are and how you can see them progressing. Have you got the right people in place and doing the right things? Gaining an accurate view of your client intentions, as Robert's talked about, picking up the phone and speaking to your client, understand their intentions. Because they're not buying off you now, does that mean they're going to erode away over time and not buy off you anymore, or is it just on delay? Try and get as much assurances from them as you can, even if it's just a feel. And in this current environment, it's very important to question and explore the options in front of you. So as I say, for me, this is a rare opportunity to stop and contemplate three things. Firstly, should you stop altogether? Should you liquidate the agency and get as much capital out of the business now before it continues to erode away? We've got clients with very healthy balance sheets that, if things were to carry on like they are now for the next 12 months, that balance sheet would erode significantly, and that's their family's wealth. That's years of hard graft and late nights working to build that asset that is their business. Is now the opportunity, it is now the time to actually take out what you've got and to do something different. Should you start to plan now for an eventual exit? There's one thing for sure, is that unless any of you are planning on living forever, we will all exit our businesses one day, and that's an important kind of realization to make. Either in life or death, you are going to eventually exit your business. So find a suitable and viable option to pass to others, either through sale or other means. Or are you going to continue? Are you going to bear any losses, potential losses over the next few months, capitalize on the opportunities that you can see and plan for renewed growth? So either way, starting point for any of this is to get clear on where you're at now. So look at the financial health of your agency objectively, like an investor, which very few of us do. Actually use this to get some distance from your business and look at it like an investor. Look to your management accounts to get a picture of the business as it stands today. This should include a profit and loss showing the month-on-month income and expenditure, so you can look at patterns and what's actually going on with the numbers. It should also include a balance sheet. Still amazed at how few businesses understand or even run a balance sheet as part of their management accounts. But without the balance sheet, your profit and loss can't possibly be right and be accurate. And the balance sheet is where you list out all of your assets and liabilities that the business, all the money the business owns and all the money that it owes, and the key performance indicators that are used to guide where you're going as a business. On that, with the management accounts, again, just picking out topical questions. One thing that we're getting asked a lot about is kind of how to account for this money coming in. So the grant money that comes in from the business rates will be shown in your accounts as income. Although it sounds like it's related to business rates, the reality is it's not. It's actually, ironically, available for businesses that don't really pay business rates. This is not really a credit on your business rates. That was just a way of the government getting money to you through the local authorities. So that is income, and it is taxable. The same with the furlough monies. So the furlough monies that you receive is income, and in your statutory year-end accounts, that will be shown as grant income, and it will be taxable. However, for management accounting purposes, we have the opportunity to report on reality and report. We don't have statutory guidelines on how we produce management accounts. So at MAP, we offset that credit against your employment costs for the period, so that you get a true reflection of the revenue versus the true cost after you've had that grant money back. And then the other one is the loans. So if you've got CBILS and bounce back loans, clearly that is not income, that's money that needs paying back. So make sure that doesn't show up on your profit and loss account, because that would be misleading. That needs to be a liability on the balance sheet. On that point, if you get in this current financial position of your business, usually we would produce accounts on what we call a going concern basis, which means that we believe that this business is still going to be in existence next year and into the future. When we're going through a crisis like this and you're considering winding down your agency, what you need to do is add any hidden liabilities that wouldn't normally be on the balance sheet when it's a going concern. So if you've got leases on your premises or cars or equipment, they wouldn't yet show on your balance sheet. They would come as those lease payments become due. So if you're now going to close down the business and you can't get out of those leases, you need to increase the liabilities on your balance sheet, and that will erode the value of the business because you know that they need to be paid off. Same with things like redundancy payments, any outstanding tax that's not yet been provisioned, and any contracts that you're tied into with suppliers in terms of software or hosting, that kind of things. You need to uncover all these hidden liabilities to understand the true financial position of your business if it was to close today. Again, just a bit of a side note, an update on time to pay while we're talking about liabilities. So time to pay is the term that certainly accountants use to describe the arrangements that you make with HMRC to defer your tax payments for PAYE, corporation tax, self-assessment VAT. The latest update that we're seeing is that if you've deferred liabilities during this COVID period, that is very much a informal situation, and very soon that's going to come to roost. So by the end of June, HMRC expects you to have settled any payments that you've deferred over the last few months, or formally agree and negotiate a time to pay arrangement, which is where you say these are our debts as things stand, and we would like to offer to pay a certain amount per month until a certain date when that will be paid off. So there's a difference between a deferral, which is just, okay, we won't chase you yet, and a time to pay installment plan. So if you'd like help with that, let us know. Up to about 250,000, we speak with debt management unit over the phone. Over 250,000, we actually have to make a written proposal and send it to a specialist HMRC team. Whether you use us or whether you do it yourself, HMRC will be asking questions, which I'll send over on an email later, but about the impact of COVID and the measures you've already taken to improve cash flow. HMRC want them to be a last resort for funding your business, not a first base like many are seeing it. So secondly, your profit and loss account for the 12 months. This is a really important point actually, because there's been a lot of talk about cash flow forecasting, including from MAP ourselves. But for me, the cash flow forecast is always falling off the profit and loss account. And what I mean by that is there's no good looking at a cash flow forecast now and saying, well, actually, our cash flow is increasing because we're not paying HMRC at the moment. We've got staff on furlough. We've had business grant money in. We've got loan money in. Cash flow looks great. But I would question, what's the fundamental profitability of your agency? Because all those liabilities still exist in the business today. So as much as it's important to understand cash flow, you need to understand the actual profit model as well. And are you going to be bringing in more revenue than the cost of running your business? And the cost is based on when it's incurred, not when it's actually paid out. But clearly cash flow is important as well, and make sure you can forecast that well into the future when your loan payments are starting to become due. Important, obviously, that your books are as accurate as possible. So ensure that your core bookkeeping is up to date and you're responsive with us. All outstanding invoices and bills are logged. If you don't have access to that data and are worried about its accuracy or unsure what the numbers are telling you, then obviously get in touch. Key questions to ask from the data. So this is where I want you to start getting creative. It's easy to get absorbed with just doing more of what we've done before, but we really need now, when we're forecasting, to start thinking more creatively. So in terms of cost, can we continue with a smaller or more flexible workforce? Furlough is not the only option. Can staff start to do less days, either temporary or permanently? Certainly temporary, they're making savings themselves on their own expenditure if they're stuck indoors. So is there opportunity there to make your workforce a bit more flexible in a way that it could suit you and your employees? Can you make some of your costs more elastic, e.g. using freelancers as needed instead of permanent staff? Do we need to reinvest or double down in certain areas where we know that they're going to be particularly profitable? In terms of your services, I hate to use the word, but in terms of pivoting, is there another angle to what you're doing? Is there a way that you can productize some of your intellectual property, some of your knowledge, to sell services one-to-many as opposed to just one-to-one? Can you deploy existing in-demand services like e-commerce to new clients? Should you stop some service lines completely? Has your passion driven you into a certain area that is just fundamentally unprofitable or has now become unsustainable during COVID? And would there be synergies joining forces with another agency? There really is going to be some serious consolidation. I think it was coming anyway, but certainly now with what's happened, smaller agencies that are just finding it far too stressful, or they're missing pieces of the agency, the best thing might be to speak to other agencies and look at how you can work together. You got to think about your motivations. Do each of the shareholders want the same thing? And if not, but you plan to go on together, agree the governance by which you're going to work together. So we have a lot of clients now where they're coming to us with this and they're struggling to make decisions at board level because the directors might be in disagreement over something. And it's fine to disagree, we're not always going to agree, but what are the rules by which you'll make decisions? So a big one at the moment, as Robert has said, is when are we going to bring people back on furlough? Who are we going to make redundant? Who are we going to do flexibly, etc.? You've got to put some markers in the sand and say, look, if revenue has not achieved X by date of Y, then we no longer have a role for these people. And they're difficult decisions to make, but try and make it that little bit more objective by just setting some parameters about how you're going to make decisions. Talked about the appetite to continue. So beyond the purely financial measures, how are you actually feeling about challenges ahead? We know that business owners are driven by determination, but that can often be detriment to doing the right thing. Having the support internally and professionally is important so that you're not facing these challenges ahead feeling as if everything relies on you alone. It's not a sign of weakness or a lack of faith in what can be achieved, but recognition that you have a responsibility to look after your own mental health and preserving the success you've enjoyed so far and looking after your family as well. So 3 options: stop, exit, or continue. So you might decide that closing your business and returning as much capital to the shareholders is your preferred option. There's a formal process for doing this, and it requires careful planning to ensure that you don't pay more tax than you need to. If your agency is solvent, which means it can pay all of its existing liabilities, and the process is pretty straightforward, and it's called an MVL, a member voluntary liquidation, where all outstanding liabilities are settled, any assets are sold, and the capital is distributed to your shareholders. Now, don't forget that obviously only 2 things certain in life: death and taxes. So you will pay tax on that, but if we get clearance with HMRC, there's every chance that we can distribute that money as capital rather than dividend and get entrepreneurs relief. So it's actually quite cheap money to get out of your business. And again, if the balance sheet is eroding over time, then that could be the right thing to do. Exit, again, leaving your business doesn't necessarily mean closing it down. And you also don't need to do it straight away. It could be that this period has forced you to think about the medium to long term plan and how your eventual exit will happen. And now might be the best time to lay the foundations for that, even if it's just thinking it through. There are many ways that you can achieve this. So passing down to family, selling to your management team, or doing some sort of employee ownership trust where the employees buy the business off you over time, or typically a trade sale or a private equity sale. Each has its own advantages, which can be mapped against what you as the owner would like to achieve. Passing to a family will ensure a long-term connection to the business and provide an asset to pass on to another generation, whereas an outright sale to a private investor or into trade is likely to generate a cash lump sum for you. Continue. So given the passion that many of you have, your assessment could also underscore your desire and determination to continue, but perhaps with a renewed focus, change in direction, or a collaboration which can pull on relative strengths. As I say, of working with different agencies could be exactly what you need right now. It's also worth considering what other operational changes could be made. Getting the bedrock data together can help reveal whether or not you've got good financial controls in place, a grip on costs, confidence in revenue, and fundamentally, have you got a profitable business model that is scalable? There might also be negotiations to suppliers that can make a material cash benefit, such as with your landlord, suppliers, and even staff dropping down to part-time. And there are ways in which you could develop leaders within your team who can help guide and create buy-in for your plans and reduce your stress. You could be looking for them to make decisions and not need your input all the time, because that can be one of the most draining things. Is it's not just the time, it's the energy of having to make the decisions. Have you got other people in your business who you can develop so that you are not the only leader? So the bravery and creativity to build an agency and have it play such an important part in your life can never be undervalued. It can be exhilarating, fun, and stressful in equal measures, but you didn't start this for an easy life, and now's your time to really step up as a leader. And being a leader and entrepreneur is about knowing when to make the changes to take things to another level, and when to get out and play a completely different game. Regardless of the factors outside of your control, what you do have is the right to choose to protect what you've built, or cut your losses and exit to start a new chapter if that's what you want. So let's ensure that you're supported in making the right decision for you, and that you're rewarded with the most value that you can achieve. As most of you know, MAP works exclusively with digital creative agencies, and we provide an outsourced finance function with FD style support to help you to understand the financial data and analysis, really understand your business by measuring and reporting on the things that matter, to actually provide meaningful insights that are tied to what you're trying to achieve. We can do a strategic review of the objective of the business and challenge the strategy for driving shareholder value. And we can also help to make operational improvements and instigate change. Reports and insights are great, but we actually need to be able to change people's behaviors and get them to do things by working closely with you to drive efficiency, growth, and profitability. Whatever you decide, MAP and the rest of the Bulletproof team are here to serve you, not just your current business. So don't be defined by your business. It's only here to serve you. And if it can't do that, then let's get to work on your next venture. And if you've still got the appetite to do this, then let's press reset and build a new plan for the new world with vigor and optimism. Okay, guys, that is it from me. Let me just stop sharing and see if I can get this to work. If I can get my video back on. So, as Robert, if you want to switch your video on, if you're still there, just a final point about Bulletproof.
My video won't go back on.
All right, okay, yeah.
You have control.
This is the second in a series of webinars that we've done during COVID. I think Robert's been doing one a day, unbelievably, or one per working day anyway, which is very impressive. But our next one is on 21st of July, and we're going to start talking about new business again. So we've got a couple of really exciting speakers, and this is about getting back on the front foot, how you lead your agency out of this crisis, and how you start winning new business again in the post-COVID era. But that's about it from the content. Let me just see, mindful of time as it is 4:30, but let me just see whether we've got any questions anyone would like answering. Nothing in the Q&A. And I completely agree with specialising narrowly as possible. However, others in our agency are worried about turning away business outside of a niche. What evidence or advice can Robert give on the impact of agencies who niche?
Great, okay, love that question. So if you imagine a table that has 0 to 100 leads going across the top, and then going down the side of it, you have the effectiveness of your sales process. Your sales process will rapidly improve the more you niche, because progressively you know more about the client and the client's business than the client does. So
Robert, do you want to just try your camera now? Sorry, I've just made
Sure. Let's try that now. Oh, there you go.
I can tell that you're articulating with your hands, so I don't want to miss out.
Okay. So what you find is that the more you niche, the greater the likelihood of making the sale, which means that you need less and less leads, which means that you are progressively more effective. Secondly, the more you niche, the more you go into a smaller village. Thirdly, the more you niche, the quicker it is to go up the food chain, because there are less people around and you're in more rarefied air. And I'll give you an absolutely classic example. So 6-7 years ago, we were a management consultancy that worked with professional service firms, mainly with agencies, but we weren't exclusively with digital agencies. 4 years ago, roughly, I wrote 2 books. One was the Check-in Strategy Journal, which is awesome and it's really high production values. And the other one was Grow Your Digital Agency, which was a very similar book, but specialized in digital agencies with very poor production values. Check-in Journal was competing with Stephen Covey, with Anthony Robbins, with every management trainer who's ever existed in the world. And as a result, I reckon we probably sold 2,000 copies. Whereas Grow Your Digital Agency, so no traction at all, whereas Grow Your Digital Agency had at the time 0 competition. There were no other books on growing digital agencies at the time. And as a result, we've sold about 26,000 copies when there are only about 30,000 agencies in the UK. So we've sold them all over the place, we've sold them by bulk and so on and so forth. My point is that when you niche, your effectiveness increases rapidly. So the only issue about niching is you pick a niche where you are in love with the clients, really important, because you can spend a lot of time with them. You're going to know more about the client's businesses than the clients do, that's good, but you just need to be careful. So I've got niche clients, one niche client who specializes in online casinos, and the last 4 months has been the best 4 months of his entire life. It's like Christmas every day. I've got another client who specializes in weddings at hotels as a niche where his sales have crashed by 95%. So there is that risk, but you're able to lift that specialization from hotels, for instance, and move it somewhere else. That particular person knows that when the market picks up, he will be the number 1 for hotels to go to. So I am a huge fan of niching.
I think the other thing to say as well, where I think maybe a lot of business owners get the wrong perception, is that just because you niching, you don't necessarily have to be turning away other business, as Anna suggested there. If you're still in the early stages of niching and you've not become massively in demand in that industry, it is okay to take on other businesses whilst you are building and getting a footfall in that niche.
But niching is nice, but you don't want to niche, you want to niche within a niche. Okay, that's the sweet spot. Isn't we work with solicitors between 50 and 150 desks. It's we do the marketing, or we get qualified leads for solicitors with 50 accountants, solicitors with 50 to 150. Then you're not competing with anyone because no one else is in that space. And when someone goes to Google and says, I'm looking for sales leaders for my 50-person accountancy practice, law practice, up you pop, and there's no one else.
Yeah, but you can start building those foundations, can't you, and start attracting those where, like you say, you're fishing in a small pond, I guess. But that doesn't mean that you need to turn away the other business that's coming to you in the meantime. It's just that hopefully, if you're successful with your strategy, one day you won't need to be accepting that other business. But if you need to do that as a short-term mechanism whilst you're getting there, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. I mean, we from day one were absolutely digital agency only, and we still got people coming to us who were not digital agents and saying, "Can we work with you?" And they served as well and helped us to grow a business. But the outside marketing angle was always agencies, and therefore we get to talk to agencies who actually are not looking for an accountancy firm at the time. They just got an intrigue that you specialize and want to understand how you can help them. Yeah. Okay. You're welcome, Andrew, and no problem. Okay, guys, if no one else has got any questions, mindful of time, so we will call it a day there. We'll get an email out with Robert's details and the details to have a look at Guider if you're interested in looking at his community there, and anything else that was relevant from the updates from the other guys at the start of the call. We'll get that out tomorrow morning. Beers for Johnny, good to hear. You're welcome, Rachel. Oh, Farhad has asked us. I think he's preparing a question because he's just written me ... question. You know Farhad, don't you?
Me? If it's Farhad, I think, is from, doesn't live in this country.
No, Farhad at Curacast, I think you've met him.
Yes, Curacast,
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Yes.
Having 2 to 3 niches not better as well.
So I think the answer to that is what you do is you have separate landing. It depends on what they are and how disparate they are. So if it's accountants, lawyers and architects, you can have a professional service firm focus. And then when people go to the website, you can go, are you an architect, an accountant or a solicitor? If they're really wide apart, then you have, I think you set up separate businesses because you talk in certain ways and your outbound is focusing on a certain type of person with a certain way of making things happen. So I think that, yes, you can, you probably just need to just stovepipe them a little bit.
Brilliant. Farhad said thank you, so you must be happy with that answer. Well done, Robert.
Cool.
Cheers, Dan. Okay, thanks everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a month's time. Cheers. Thanks, Robert.
Bye.